Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Julia with a Library Card Education. Today I'm doing a detailed flip through of Heaven and Earth from Masterbooks, grades 6 through 8, but can be used with grades 3 through 5. I am coming from a Catholic young earth perspective, and I am trying to decide what materials can come into our home. Are they going to be usable, as Masterbooks is a Protestant company? Can I use this product without it contradicting our faith so much so that it becomes unusable or far too much work to make it usable? And will this be unapologetically Christian, young earth? What are the details that we can glean from this? And since most flip throughs do not point you to those types of details, I hope this review or preview can be helpful for anybody else that finds themselves in my sort of situation. So I have several color stickies. These orange stickies are areas of note that I found incredibly interesting. So everything comes from a Christian worldview, Bible-believing scientists with lists, some Catholic, some Protestant. And these are all the topics that you're going to discuss in this unit. What were the weather and climate like before the Genesis flood? So it goes into some of that detail. And this talks about climate change from a Christian worldview, a biblical worldview. So that's not always Catholic friendly, but I think this gives good information and a good contradiction to what we hear in news. Please pause this if you want to read more, or speed it up if I'm going too slow. And this is just giving you a relative humidity and percentage, how that's tabulated in your experiment and how you're going to do that for yourself. This is a fun section to read. wind scales. So if you're comparing this to something like The Good and the Beautiful, because this has 3 units in one, I can just say without a doubt that this has far more detail in it than any of the Good and the Beautiful products you're going to find. What is discussed? Things that can easily be notebooked, very good narration prompts, and things that you can research on your own for further studies. Mapping opportunities. And this is your conclusion of the unit before you go into your next unit. You have a glossary, terms and definitions for each unit. Unit 2, the universe. And here we get to another item of note. They have the geocentric model and the heliocentric models. And I just saw something today on YouTube. Today is June 9th, I think, about a professional scientific camera that was set up to take pictures of the sun every single day at the same time each day for 2 years. And it shows the sun doing a figure 8 pattern, which would give credence to those that still today, believe in the geocentric model. So there's lots of jumping off points of how you can research using various topics in this book. This will be a note of concern later on with Catholics. Galileo gets his own special feature. Catholics, you will want to go through and show Vatican documents as to what our side of the story is. And for those that don't know, yes, he was put under house arrest, but that's what it was, house arrest. He was still continued to be provided research and funding from the Catholic Church. So they did not stop his research. They did not stop his projects at all. And what the point of it was, what they disagreed with him on is because he had a theory and they asked him to not go out and teach the theory publicly until that theory could be proven. They didn't want to create scandal amongst the lay faithful and the scientific community. They wanted to make sure that there was some consensus before they published his works and made them official teaching or official documents. And that does not go in here, and that's pretty common with all non-Catholic books. Now in here I have various notes because what I first did was I wanted to compare the Good and the Beautiful's astronomy unit this morning with this. I wanted to see side by side, so I was making notes in Masterbooks. And after looking at 3 individual lessons, I came to the very strong conclusion, my beliefs, my perspectives, my opinions, that this is going to be a stronger science book than what you're going to get with The Good and the Beautiful. Does that mean The Good and the Beautiful is bad? No. If you want the pretty, that's where you're going to go. If you want the visuals, if that's all you really care about is visuals with just peeling that first layer of the onion and you don't mind keeping it superficial, The Good and the Beautiful is a good option. But for those of us that want to take it a little bit deeper, this is by far and away a superior product. So take some of these off because these were mine. And observing the night sky, talking about star charts, that's not in The Good and the Beautiful. They have lots of little fun facts. So the mapping out and how to map out is not in The Good and the Beautiful. And like I said, I only did that for 3 lessons before it just was no point. So this is explaining the young earth perspective, its challenges, and it challenges the modern secular theories. That's what my note said. More star info, whereas Good and the Beautiful only has 1 lesson that discusses stars. And this goes into popular evolutionist ideas, discussing them and how biblical principles refute that. Fun fact, a neutron star is so dense that a tablespoon of it would weigh more than the buildings, all of the buildings in New York City. So those are the fun little tidbits you get. This was my first big finding this morning, astronomy versus astrology, and it goes into divination. If you're not familiar with divination, divination is the use of modalities, cards, Ouija boards, seances, pentagrams, etc., fortune tellers, psychics, all of that, using them to communicate with spirits of the dead, portals, the third eye, all of that stuff, the kundalini, all of that. That's divination. And this is very explicit about divination, what it is, why it's evil, why it's not good. I have not seen that anywhere else outside of my traditional Catholic writings. And so I'm very impressed with this. So it goes into science versus witchcraft. A very strong feature. You're not going to see that in other Christian sciences. And this is Bible verses that discuss the origins of the moon. So if you're looking for something and you're concerned about all of the young earth, you're not going to be able to avoid it in here, and you're not going to be able to avoid the Christian-centered, Bible-based science. This is everywhere. If you're a secular individual, this will not work for you. Goes into the explanation on how to, for yourself, figure out why the sky is blue and how you can see those colors. This discusses why you would see the rabbit or the man in the moon when you're looking at the moon itself. And that's a fun opportunity. Now I highlighted this one because depending on your view of the world, politics, government, all of that, and if you are a conspiracy theorist or a conspiracy factor, however you want to label yourself, this would be an amazing deep dive. Goes into NASA, and there's so much information available even on YouTube about the occult and quite literally the satanic practices of all of the founders of NASA, the top scientists and military leaders that were involved in this project, the NASA project. And I mean that quite seriously. Satanic, pentagram, black masses, all of that. And if you've never been to the NASA Space Museum in Alabama, that's a fun one to go to. I was not a young earther, And I had no idea of the cult leanings of NASA those 12, 15 years ago. And going there, I couldn't figure out why. When I would look at the pictures of these founders, why did their eyes look so creepy and scary? But now I know why. Because they were all occultists. So this goes into the Big Bang Theory. If you didn't know, the Big Bang Theory was actually a theory produced by a Catholic priest who was also an astrophysicist. But he is in old Earth, and that tends to be a more modernist idea, which is why we don't adhere to that anymore. Dating methods, I made this note for my daughter when she goes through it, for dating methods and how it ties into the Shroud of Turin. Any Catholics, that might be a fun one for you. Biblical dating, which is kind of fun. Rocks and minerals, all the things that you're going to study. If you have a child that like to collect rocks and bring them to you from the earliest of ages, this might be a fun unit for them, because they will be doing a final project where they are going to become the rock hound. Discussing the origins of a piggy bank. Discussing the dating issues again between old Earth, young Earth, evolution versus creationist, and how through current or more modern testing you can create fossil fuels in a matter of 8 to 12 months versus millions of years, like is commonly told to us. And this is something where you'll need to have a Catholic conversation for this, if you are Catholic. And you will be doing a mapping project of all the volcanoes around the world. A nice history tie-in. Lots of great literature for elementary and middle school out there based on this. So many topics you can add living books to for these very easily. evidence of the flood and how they believe it made the Grand Canyon. And that is the end of the book. So 3 units. Pro-God, pro-Bible, definitely not Christian washed. This could be very easy for Catholics to use if you are young earth. I think it's great. Let me know what you think. Have you used this? Are you interested in using it? Do you have questions, concerns, comments? Type them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll check you later.